Okay, so good morning and welcome to the Integrated Smart and Poly webinar, focusing on extending digital collaboration to Microsoft and Zoom environments anytime, anywhere. During the webinar, all participants will be on mute, so please use the chat box function at the bottom of your screens to ask questions which will be answered at the end of the webinar. We also recommend you use the side-by-side mode, which can be accessed by the View Options tab at the bottom of your page. I'm your host Olivia, and in today's webinar, Charlie, the Smart UK and Ireland Enterprise Development Manager, will begin exploring the sentiments of a modern meeting room, how Smart as a solution augments capabilities of contactless interactivity and integration with the Poly Studio line. Declan, the Global Alliance Senior Manager from Poly, will then expand on Poly's newest innovations from Microsoft Teams and Zoom. We'll also cover the modern workplace end-to-end portfolio integrated with Smart. Chris, the General Enterprise Sales Manager at our distributor Midwich, will close the webinar with how these two products come together as one solution and provide purchasing information. So Charlie, over to you, please.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Olivia. And welcome to you all today on Thursday, the 13th of August. And thank you for attending this webinar. So we're going to start off discussing a little bit around the survey that RAID and Smart put together in June and July of this year, looking at very much the end decision makers' opinions around things like current meeting challenges, what COVID-19 impact it's having, and also what that impact looks like for future meeting space as well. So we had over 300 decision makers submit their answers into the survey. So we'll just take you through a number of these that we pulled out that we thought was important, and we do have an infographic that we can share as well. So unsurprisingly, there were 37% of the 300 that responded that reported that they have unproductive meetings. Now this can be down to the amount of time that they spend in those meetings, or that there isn't a clear agenda, or they're not able to see people and they're not able to collaborate in the right way, and it may not be engaging. And then there was 31% that found that the meetings, there was a general misunderstanding that came out of the meetings. Again, that could be down to the fact that they're not using video conferencing facilities in the best way, not able to start the meeting the right way, and losing participants and so on. And then we found that 83% believe that the next normal will be a hybrid workplace. So working from home as we are currently at the moment, but with the option to be able to go into the office and be able to use the office space that's there as well. When we then asked them about whether or not they had a plan for being able to have staff back into the office, surprisingly there was pretty much a third said that they did have a plan. Another third said they had a plan of sorts that they were defining, and then there was also another third that said, not yet, we haven't got that plan, we haven't even got that far within the planning stage. What we then found is that actually a large number of people are still searching for the right type of video conferencing tools to be able to use, and the right type of software and platforms to be able to use and maximize the power that video conferencing can have. 92% believed that it was important to accommodate modern web conferencing facilities. I've been in numerous offices where they've still got the projector with the whiteboard at the front, and then they're basically having to have somebody move the camera around, or they're writing on post-it notes, which is very dated in this day and age. People aren't able to see through a webcam post-it notes, and being able to have all of that information in a whiteboard session is fantastic, and then being that through your video conferencing or your web conferencing side of things. 76% wanted a more contactless meeting space. What that to Smart means is having things like being able to walk up to the board and the board turns on, you're able to pick up a pen and you're able to start writing without needing to use fingers. Then you've got 60% that found that it was important for a meeting space to be able to accommodate a more modern digital collaboration type solution as well. So loads of people, obviously very high numbers, percentage numbers in this. We kind of break it down into 3 areas. So web conferencing is incredibly important, as is contactless, but then also being able to have the digital collaboration side as well. All of that then creates an engaging, an interactive and a collaborative meeting that people are then able to take that information away and be able to respond and action it accordingly, rather than somebody having to take photographs, for example, or somebody having to write notes and then be able to then send that out, sometimes not necessarily in the right order. So for us, these 3 are the biggest components which Smart and Poly can deliver. So in terms of the Smart proposition, so with our boards, with our Smart Pro Series boards, you can have up to 4 devices connected through wires, whether that's VGA, HDMI, or a display port. The great thing with it is that when you walk up the board and you plug your devices in, what you'll then see is an input view and a live view of all of the different sources that are being used. So if I've got 3 that are connected and I want to connect to VGA through my laptop, I can then do so, and it will then show a live preview of my front screen on my laptop. So I know that is the one that I want. Then all I need to do is tap the button and it will then make it the larger screen on the Smart board. One of the other things as well is that through the convenience panel on the right, on the left-hand side, on this is on the right, you can actually plug in USB devices. So for example, the Poly Studio, as well as a USB keyboard, for example, and it will seamlessly handshake across each of those wired devices as well. So if I move from a VGA to an HDMI, those will seamlessly handshake with that HDMI connection as well. So you're not constantly having to unplug, replug, download software and so on and so forth. And this can all be centrally managed, which I'll explain in a little while. In terms of contactless, all of our Pro Series boards, you're able to walk into the room, for example, the board is turned off. When you walk towards the board will wake up, so you're not having to press any buttons, remote control and so on, to be able to start that session. And then all you need to do is pick up a pen or start interacting with the board. Then what you've also got is following on with the contactless side of things. So you've seen the wired side of things, but what you can also do is use the wireless side of things. So you can screen share across any of the different platforms. So whether that's AirPlay, Miracast, Chromecast, Google Cast, for example, you can do all of those up to 4 devices without needing any application to be able to do so. You simply connect through the network and then you're able to start marking up on those devices as well. What you'll also find is that you may have more than 4 people in the room that want to screen share at any one time. You can actually have a prompt button, which then means you can then decide as the host who you'd like to join through that screen sharing side of things. With Miracast as well, you have touchback options. So for example, I could send a slide wirelessly to the board. I can then click the prompt that says that I'd like touchback, and I can then interact with the board and move through the slides without having to constantly press and go backwards and forwards to my laptop to make that happen. Then you've also got the unlocking of the digital collaboration side of things. So with our Pro Series, we have an award-winning standard of a driver called Smart Ink, which means that you can mark up across any any Office application, as well as CAD and PDF as well. And so, for example, I can pick up a pen and I can start writing onto the PowerPoint. If I want to rub out, I can either use one of the rubbers or I can use the palm of my hand to do so. Nice and simple. With our 7000R Pro Series, you've actually got 4 different pens, and each pen writes simultaneous to each other. So if I'm using a green pen, I can then pick up a blue pen and write in blue as well. You can also save the application or the writing that you've done in its native format as well. So you're not having to change that to a different piece of software that somebody may not have. So if I write on a PowerPoint presentation, it can be saved as a PowerPoint presentation. And you can also mark up on any wireless screen share as well, and that can then be transported into the Teamworks whiteboarding session. So in terms of Teamworks, what we've got is you're able to, on the left-hand side, you're able to start meetings with a one-tap join or a one-touch join, and they can be either scheduled or ad hoc meetings. So it provides a calendar of that day, and you can then see where the room is free and so on. It works across Teams, Skype for Business, Zoom, WebEx, GoToMeeting, all of the different platforms. Like I said, it's a one-tap join to start and go into that meeting, which is fantastic. So you're not having to scramble around doing things. You can also share across all devices. So with the example in the middle, you've got the Smart Teamwork server, as well as the Connect edition, and you're then able to use the contributor app, which then means that people within the meeting room, for example, are able to see everything in live time. But those people that are remote are also able to not only see it in live time, but also contribute. For example, they might have a file that they want to share and mark up on. They can do that through there as well. And these two office locations might well be in two completely different countries, halfway across the globe, for example. But then what you're able to do is also save all of those things. In fact, one of the things I've forgotten to mention is you can actually record those sessions as well, and they are as an MP4 play. So anything that you're doing on the board, as well as anything you're talking about to the board, will be picked up in that video recording and then shared at the end in the recap session. This is great for training exercises, for example, or people that aren't able to attend the meeting. Like I said, you can save the changes to documents, but what it won't do is copy over your original files. It will only add a P1 or a P2 for page, and it will then add the rest of the naming convention that you had for your original file, so it's easy to find. And then you're able to either email attendants or attendees with the meeting notes, or you can add more participants to it, so then they're receiving it because they weren't able to make it to the meeting, and they can then receive that. You can also put that onto OneDrive, SharePoint, onto your server, or onto USB key, for example, as well, or even onto the PC that you're using. So this gives a little example of what I'm talking about. So if you imagine the room on the left is in London, the people in the middle are dotted all around the globe, and then you've also got an office, say, in New York on the right-hand side. The person on the left has added an image. Everybody can see that, and that person has now moved that image across. The person in the middle might decide they want to write up and mark up onto that. Everybody will be able to see it in live time, and then the people on the right might decide that they're going to add in some annotation as well. And again, everybody, whether you're on a mobile device, a laptop, a mobile, or a tablet, is still able to see that, as well as anybody using the smartboard as well. And then at the end, like I said, it asks if you'd like a recap. You click yes, follow that through, and it's got simple instructions what to do, and then that can be emailed out to people. So it's nice and simple. In terms of the centrally managed side of things that I talked about earlier, it basically, we try and make our products as easy to integrate and manage for IT managers, as well as people that are using it on a day-to-day basis as well. Hence the reason on Teamworks we have a tutorial page, or a tutorial page that then opens up short videos on how to wirelessly screen share across the different platforms, but also how to use the whiteboard, how to open up the internet while in the whiteboard session, but then also how to recap those sessions as well. In terms of the remote management software that comes with our products, it basically means that you can monitor the health of the boards. They can be boards as well as mobiles, laptops and so on. And it means that you can keep an eye on the proximity sensor, the humidity in the room, but also the ambient light as well, and set that accordingly as you would like through that. and it also helps being able to do automatic over-the-air updates as well. So I'm now going to pass on to my colleague Declan to carry on with the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Next slide, please. Well, as Charlie mentioned at the beginning, and I think as we all know, we're now living in a very new and unprecedented world where there's just a massive disruption to both our work practices and our work places. And there's no question that the power of smart teamworks, you know, when it comes to digital collaboration, will undoubtedly help organizations build a new way of working with their colleagues and their customers. However, it is only one part, because when we're talking about collaboration, we're talking about real time, just like we are right now. We're talking about the real-time voice and real-time video, and how do we wrap that around the content that Charlie has described there, so that we get the sort of experience we need to transition successfully to next normal. Because let's remember, you know, maintaining engagement with our employees is critical. It always has been, and it's just got much more difficult. You know, the more you maintain engagement with your people, the higher your level of satisfaction of the employees, the higher productivity that you get, and the lower turnover. So it's all good, but it's never been easy, you know, because 1/3 of workers always are very often distracted wherever they are, in the office and increasingly at home. And no matter where you are when you get distracted, it takes 23 minutes to get back into a concentration zone once something takes you out of that. So now again, we'll have multiple work scenarios: satellite, hybrid, flexible, remote, all these new definitions that we're still trying to come to terms with. And again, it's always been the case, though, that when people are not working as physically part of a group, a certain amount of people do struggle with isolation and with loneliness, and that's a factor that's going to increase. And similarly, when people are isolated, a significant number can struggle with collaborating, communicating, working as part of a team. And again, with the world we now live in, that's a situation that's only going to increase. So what can we do? Next slide, please, Charlie. So to layer more difficulty on top of that, wait for it to move, we have to look at the situation that we all find it in. You know, the world has moved towards cloud collaboration platforms, of which there are many. And many organizations, you know, favor one. But the reality is 84% of companies say that they need to use 2 or more. In fact, 20% of companies say that they need to use 5 or more. So people want to have the choice to use whichever collaboration technology that they wish, both because what they use internally is something, but they have to liaise with other organizations who may be using something else. So you want to have a flexible infrastructure. Charlie mentioned earlier on, but Smart can accommodate all of the key players, as indeed can Poly. And there's no question then that combined with which cloud service you want to use, you have to look at where you are when you're using it. There's a direct correlation between the productivity of people and the extent to which the devices and technologies they're using is aligned to what they want. So not only is it about the meeting room, but it's about when you want to do web conferencing. It's about when you're maybe back in the office and you want to make a phone call on a desk phone. But particularly, it's about when you're in remote and flexible environments and you want to use wearables. So we're all remote, obviously, today. I'm using one form factor. Chris is using a different one. Olivia and Charlie are using speakerphones. And you have to be able to have the devices and technology that accommodate everybody. I mean, the way I would ask you to think about it is that any successful collaboration is like a wheel. In the center, you have a hub, typically with a Smart Teamworks type platform. But then you have all the spokes, which are all the remote contributors to that meeting. And like any wheel, if that hub fails or any single spoke fails, the entire wheel fails. And we all have the experience of somebody joining a meeting remotely, and because they aren't prepared to contribute appropriately, they disrupt the entire experience. And that's what we all have to plan for all of those multiple contributors, all of those folks, as well as planning for the hub. And so we've all these scenarios you have to cater for. And as we see below, the user is now on some journey between your business space and a flexible home space, or both. Next slide, please, Charlie. So how can we help? How can Poly help deliver this real-time experience wherever you are? Well, it comes down to innovation. So Poly, some of you may know, is almost 60 years old now. Plantronics was formed in 1961, called Plain Electronics, developing aviation headsets, lightweight headsets post-Second World War. Within 2 years, we became part of the Apollo program and ultimately went to the moon with Neil Armstrong. And it was Plantronics, now Poly, that they used to deliver that experience. And frankly, the most extraordinary of, remote workers. I don't think we've ever got better. And that's the sort of ethos, and that's the sort of culture, and that's the belief in excellence that we've had ever since. So we've a variety of technologies that have to deliver at the near end and at the far end. Because of course, we all know how we experience video and voice, but how is it for the other person? And how can I cater for them by ensuring how I sound or how I appear is as best as I can be? And there's a variety of technologies we employ to deliver this consistent, high quality audio experience, and also try and ensure that we minimize distraction for everybody. So whether it's acoustic fencing in our desk phones so that people outside of a certain sphere of the phone cannot be heard, or active and passive noise cancelling built into our headsets. So not only do I get my environment cancelled out, but also what you hear through my microphones is mitigating any distraction that might be around me. Or indeed, most notably, noise block AI in our video collaboration spaces. So when you're using your smart system, your smart display with TeamWorks, any other extraneous noises going on around you are mitigated and taken care of in the audio space. Next slide, please, Charlie. And similarly, when it comes to video, there's enabling technologies that help people as much as is possible feel part of the organization, feel part of the collaboration, no matter where they are. So how can we employ technologies to help the meeting to run smoother, for us to feel less jarring and less remote? Again, there's a variety of technology, from automatic framing of the speaker through to smoothly transitioning between different people in the room. Sometimes there's more than one person who are actively speaking in a room, and rather than trying to dab between them, conversation mode allows you automatically to display both active speakers. And then, of course, in huddle rooms in particular, you want to elegantly frame the people who are participating in all the meetings. So all of this is we call Poly Meeting AI, as a kind of a cover-all description of what we do to try and make the near-end experience as good as possible, and indeed the far-end experience as good as possible. And I think we have, Charlie, a small video to show this, and you'll notice, like the video earlier on those.
Here on Poly Studio. So I'm in a classroom. I have students in the class here with me, and others also on the far end over video. Now, as an instructor, when I'm on video, sometimes I get concerned that I'm not being seen, either if I don't have a tracking camera in the room with me, or I'm concerned that it's tracking too slow. I might feel like I have to stay nailed down in my chair the whole time. This is the great thing about Poly Studio. I've got the freedom to know that I can get up and move around the classroom and always still be seen on video. Maybe I want to come over here and start writing on this whiteboard, or maybe I want to come over here to my interactive virtual whiteboard here, or I want to share some content. The great thing is, no matter whether I'm sharing content, I want to write on a whiteboard, or I just want to get up and pace a little bit while I'm instructing, I can be confident knowing that I'm always seen on video, always in the center of the screen at all times, and my face isn't getting lost as I'm walking around the room.
Yeah, so obviously it's fair to say that video was jerky because we're doing this remotely, but that's a completely elegant and seamless, intuitive experience. So please, we have an excellent YouTube channel. You can see these and many other innovations being demonstrated in 1-minute videos to show how we bring that sort of intuitive, relaxed experience as much as we can to these virtual environments. And particularly now when you look at the sort of in the education world, or where people are remotely presenting, being able to move around the room while ensuring you're absolutely appearing a center stage is going to be a fantastic innovation to help people develop these sort of hybrid teaching and education environments. But all of that begs another question. If you take all these scenarios, that's a huge amount of equipment that's out in the field now, or in your buildings, that you really historically have not really had much visibility on. It's at the edge of the IP network, or even it's beyond the IP network because it's a USB connected device. So perhaps the single biggest innovation that Poly will bring to this space and for our customers is the idea that every single piece of Poly technology that you choose to deploy, whether it's from lightweight USB headsets up to telepresence rooms, can all now be monitored, managed, and maintained in a single spot by you. So whether you want to stage, deploy, and maintain your environments, we have the capability to offer centralized management for you and your customers right the way across every single device, which is a completely unique to Poly. USB, IP connected, doesn't matter. The name of that technology, we're going through that process right now, would be known as Lens, and arguably it's going to be the single biggest differentiator Poly has, on top of all the technical innovation around voice and video we mentioned earlier on. Next slide, please, Charlie. So when we go back and look at this this graphic explaining how we believe we can help and complement technologies such as Smart around delivering not just content, but audio and video. So whichever cloud service you choose to use or start with and change to, whichever environment you find yourself in, huddle room, conference room, at your desk, or increasingly flexible remote or hybrid workers, whether you're in the office or whether you're at home or whether you're on the journey in between, we have the capability to wrap all of that, provide technology solutions, complement our display partner with centralized management, and of course, Poly is a significant global player with global services to manage all that for you as an organization. So with that, I will say thank you and pass on to Chris, who will explain how Midwich are bringing Poly and Smart to you in the marketplace. Thank you, Chris.
Good morning, everybody, and I'd like to say thank you to the guys at Smart and to Poly. Smart, who Midwich have had a long-standing relationship with, and as you can see on the screen now, we're pleased to announce that we have a new relationship with the guys at Poly, which is being announced this week with the global supply. So what are the benefits to our customer base having these two companies which we can combine? And the answer is, if you take everything that these two guys have shown us and put them together, you now have the ultimate digital collaboration, because meetings like this, if they are meetings, should not just be people talking to each other via video and sharing the screen occasionally. People, from a lot of the information that we've had and surveys like the RAVE survey, are saying that people really need collaboration. They need to feel part of it, to be able to touch the screen, to be able to pick up ink and participate, mark up the PDF with the CAD boys and people like that. So this combination means that from a business point of view, you're going to end up with the best in class. And what a lot of companies are looking at now is, if potentially they're going to end up with 30% of the staff back in the office at some point this year, maybe in the UK, and the other 70% are working from home, they need to make sure that all of these people are getting a full professional level meeting, rather than people on webcams and, you know, laptops with dodgy audio and stuff going on in the background. So you really need to ensure that these meetings are as good as they would have been if people were sat in front of each other. And this is where extending this digital collaboration is essential, through selecting the correct products for the correct spaces. So what you're going to get now is, you're going to get best-in-class audio, best-in-class video, best-in-class touch, and best-in-class touch collaboration software. So if you combine those all together, you're going to give your staff the best possible meeting experience. Next slide, please, Charlie. So there are lots of combinations, but we tried to keep this very clear and concise, and to make it very easy for our end users and our customers. So we've said that this is literally as easy as 1, 2, 3. So what you can do is, you can select your screen size. So for example, you can see across the bottom, you've got like 65-inch for smaller spaces. You've got the 75-inch for more conferencing, excuse me, and 86 inches ideal for spaces like large training rooms, boardrooms, etc. So we can pick the size that we want to use. All of those screens can be wall mounted, and they can also be attached to mobile stands as well, which is quite popular at the moment, with the ability to, excuse me again, the heat. It's quite important at the moment, with the ability for companies to move their product around. So once you've selected your screen size, you can then match from the Poly range. There are a few on the screen at the moment, the appropriate camera that suits your needs. And again, with both of these systems, they can be with a PC or PC-less. So things like the X30 has an appliance built in, so you can put it onto your smart screen without a PC, whereas the Poly Studio that we saw demonstrated earlier in the video, that's a USB device, so we can plug that directly into a PC in the room or the slot-in PC for the smart device. So that's your step 2 with the camera. And then step 3 is to select your technology from Smart, because Smart have a range of business solutions. So with the MX, you've got infrared. With the 6000 series, you've got in glass. And with the 7000 series, which is the top of the range, you've got the EMR technology, which means it's pressure sensitive and a palm rejection when you're writing on the screen. So 1, 2, 3, pick your screen size, pick your camera, pick your technology, and virtually any space that you can think of, we have a solution for there. Even if, as well, like today, you can see I'm working from home. Smart do a 24-inch podium, which is basically a mini version of a smart board that can sit at the side of my laptop and plug in, and then we can select again one of the Poly. So Eagle Eye Cube may be perfect for me working from home, or if I've got a bit more space, maybe a Poly Studio. So we have combinations to suit every space. Next slide, Charlie. So what can we do next from the people on the call looking at the solutions? Well, we've got a raft of choices for you. So Midwich have a new, newly refurbished centre in Bracknell. You can see a bit of a floor plan in there. So we have all our technology in there, so we can take you through all the different smart solutions and sizes, and we can also take you through the Poly, all the different ranges from the virtual webcam up to conferencing rooms. We also have Smart's offices in Waterloo, so we can go in there and use their facilities, and we have Poly's offices as well available to us. Again, with the way that we're working at the moment, places like our innovation centre is fully COVID safe. So we even have plastic wrappers around the door handles with silver nitrate on that if you touch them will remove any bugs off the hands. We have hand sanitizer on the way in. You can check in with the QR code. So all the technology that we sell at Midwich is built into that building so that we can do all the social distancing as well. We also have demo loan kit, because a lot of people now would like to have the equipment on site. So you can test it out and try your Teams or Zoom or whatever platform meetings you would like through the system as well. So all of those facilities are available, but we do also have one more. Charlie, if you just move on for me. And we also have the ability to do virtual briefings as well. So we can arrange for you and your team, or you individually, to meet with us remotely, and we can do a full demonstration of the solutions to you, going through it without leaving your building or your office or even leaving home. So depending on what stage you're at with your COVID situation, we can support you through any of those situations. Charlie. So on the screen, that's all our details. So whether it be if you want to know pricing on solutions, if you want quotations, if you want loan kit, if you want virtual demonstrations, feel free to come to me or Charlie or Declan. If you've got technical questions, we can answer those from any three of us. But if you've got severely technical questions, then definitely ask Charlie or ask Declan on that one. But we can support you throughout at whatever level and wherever you may be. So feel free to contact us at any point, and I'll pass over to Olivia, who can take some questions. Thank you.
Okay, so our first question received is for Charlie. Is Teamworks compatible with any web conferencing platform, for example, Blue Jeans or Teams?
Yes, it is. Yeah, so it works with pretty much every single video conferencing platform, web conferencing platform there is. So Blue Jeans, WebEx, GoToMeeting, Teams, Skype for Business. So even if you're moving from Skype for Business, for example, and you're choosing a different web conferencing platform, it doesn't matter. You still invite exactly the same way. The only difference being is you do it as a Teams, for example, rather than Skype for Business meeting.
And what warranty does the Smart Pro series come with in the UK?
Good question. So with all of our Pro series, that's MX, 6000S and 7000R, they all come with a 5-year on-site warranty.
Okay, and one for Chris. You mentioned about the Innovation Centre in Bracknell. How do you book a visit?
Yeah, probably the easiest thing to do from today is to use my details that we put up on the screen. Drop me an email or give me a call, because what we're actually doing, obviously, with the COVID situation, rather than having a diary where we can book people in, we're doing it by appointment only. So if anybody wants to contact me, feel free, and we'll give you some dates and times when we can bring you in, and the centre will be used purely for you during that time. So yeah, we're as safe as possible.
And just on the integration, can you use any of the Smart Enterprise range with any of the Polycamera range?
That's an easy one. Yes, you can. So yeah, you can plug and play with and mix with any of the screen sizes and any of the cameras.
Okay, great. And Declan, you mentioned being able to capture insights via Lens, your centralized management platform. Would you have any examples of what you mean by this?
Yes, so it depends on which particular device you're looking at. For example, what Lens will be able to do is look at meeting room utilization, for example. So when you're going back to decide the efficient layout of your room spaces and configurations, having insights around what's going on in the room during meetings, who's there, who's not there, how many people are in, not individuals, we're not tracking obviously details, but certainly number of persons in the room is something that will be fed back to the organization. On the other extreme, when you look at things like remote workers in contact centers using headsets, the ability to be able to know, for example, how they're feeling on a call, you know, when they're speaking, when the customer's speaking, when nobody's speaking, when they're speaking over each other, these are all insights you can draw back from any interaction that your remote workers might be having. And of course, the physical management of the devices, how they're being used, where they're being used, which devices are being used, are indeed third-party devices being used that are not approved, because we don't just see our equipment, particularly on the USB side, we see everything. And that can be a great insight for IT to decide on strategy and whether people are complying with what they want. But these are only some sporadic examples. There's many, many more.
And one maybe for Charlie. You mentioned the recording feature available. Is it Smart's platform or Teams? And what format is the recording saved? And can we edit this for internal purpose?
So through the Teamwork software, you have a record button in your menu, which all you need to do is just press. As long as you've got audio connected to your board, it will pick up everything you're saying while you're writing on the board, as well as everything that's being shown during that whiteboard session. So if I open up a PowerPoint within the whiteboard session, I can then take an image, a capture of an image of it, I can write on it, and I can move that somewhere else. Once I've stopped recording and I need to go through the recap side of things, it will always ask me if I want to keep that video recording. It'll automatically be ticked as yes, so you have to untick it if you don't want that. And it will always save as an MP4 video, so you can absolutely edit it as well.
Okay, great. And Chris, when will the trade prices on the bundles be available for Midwich, and also the stock availability dates?
Yep, so really the target date for all of this is the 1st of September. So that's when we will have all the stock available, the bundles available, and pricing on it. If anybody is obviously interested, straight away get in touch with your account manager, because we obviously have individual price lists now from Smart and from Poly. So we can take that inquiry and work on it, and then as soon as we have it available, we can release that. So don't be shy of talking to us straight away, but the official release date is the 1st of September.
Okay, that's all the questions we have received.
Okay, thank you all very much for attending, and I hope you found that very useful and informative. And it's great to have both Declan and Chris on the call with me, talking about how we work together. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Charlie.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.